Welcome back to another episode of All Things Everything presented by Gulf Coast Smoke. My name is Alonzo.
And I'm Sabrina.
And this is episode 40. You just told me
43.
43. This is episode 43. And today we have a little bit more barbecue to talk about than we did last episode. Last episode was a lot of fun. I actually got some pretty good feedback from people. They're like, man, it's really cool seeing you talk about different stuff. People in the comments were like, man, anime, golf, barbecue, we'd get along really well. I think that's a pretty common thing, right? But we do have some barbecue to talk about this week. So we put out a recipe in short version, but it's a recipe we are pretty damn proud of. Yeah. And it turned out a lot better, not than we necessarily thought, but you expect something to be good and then it just blows your mind how good it is. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. What did we make this past week, and should people try it?
Yeah, so we went with the tailgate recipe. We used the small tortillas like street tacos, and we smoked some burnt ends, cut up those burnt ends, put them on the tacos with some homemade pico, some queso fresco cheese, an avocado, cilantro, lime sauce, a little bit of Killer Hogs hot sauce. We seasoned it with Killer Hogs products. And
we used Malcolm's Grande Gringo to be exact.
Right.
So what we wanted to do, and sorry to cut you off, what we wanted to do was have a Mexican-inspired burnt end.
Right.
So we got the brisket point, we seasoned it with the TX rub, then we went over top with Malcolm's Grande Gringo, and I'll tell you what, it worked. And it worked really, really, really well. The flavor that we got on those burnt ends was just absolutely outrageous. It's something that you guys absolutely need to try. But continue, go ahead.
No, and you make a good point. No pun intended.
Right.
But when you cook a point or a flat or the whole brisket, the general rule of thumb is like salt, pepper, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's like any other piece of meat, and it can take on different flavors.
Yeah.
So the Grande Gringo paired really, really well with it.
Extremely.
It still had that smoked brisket, burn end taste, but with a little bit of Mexican flair, which went perfectly with those tacos. I mean, and it had like the softness from the burn end. It had like the crispness from the pico,
it was fresh.
The sauce,
it was refreshing.
The freshness, right. So it was not just something that you can make for a tailgate, just something to make at the house. It was a really, really interesting and delicious way to make a burn end.
Yeah. So we did it in short version. We told you guys we wanted to start working on shorts, and that's step number one, is actually doing one. So we did it, and we're proud of the video. We love it. But if you guys are interested in a long-form video for this, most definitely let us know. We're absolutely up for doing it because it was that good, and we would do it again, number one. And number two, of course, in a long-form video, we could be much more detailed with what we're doing and why we're doing it. For example, you guys probably didn't even notice, or maybe you did, I left the fat on the bottom of that point. And the reason that we did that was because we wanted a little bit of protection from the pellet grill. The heat comes from the bottom. We did have a water pan in there as well, but we wanted a little bit of protection. And I'll tell you what, my plan was to process that fat off in the end. We ended up not doing it, not for any specific reason. That fat 100% added a great flavor and texture to that taco. It was rendered perfectly, thankfully, and it just brought it together. So you get that richness, that fat. It works when it comes to brisket. That's why a lot of people really enjoy leaving a quarter of an inch on their slice. I'll tell you what, it absolutely worked on the point as well for our burnt ends. So maybe try it. If you guys have a point, we actually picked this up from our local HEB. It was a small point, really small point. We were hoping to do more, but we could only find that. Maybe try it out. Leave a little bit of the fat on the bottom, and I'll tell you what, it tasted damn good.
Yeah, it's when that fat is rendered properly, it's almost like sticky. It's sticky, it's soft, it really does melt in your mouth.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people who don't usually like to eat the fat off of, any sort of barbecue, when it's cooked properly and it's the right kind of fat, it just works really, really well. It's not hard, it's not chewy, it's soft.
Yeah, I mean it adds something, right? It absolutely adds something to the dish or to the protein, not necessarily the dish. But in this, it actually really did add, because you had that boldness, that beefiness, and then you had the fat that just makes it a little more rich, and then you had the crispness and the freshness from the pico de gallo with the onions, the tomatoes, the lemon juice, and then of course we had I call it cilantro lime sauce. That's just what I call it. But another really huge ingredient in that is avocado. So we put a avocado in there, and that adds a lot of creaminess. And then, of course, you get a little bit of that lime juice coming through. So you have acidity, you have beefness, you have salt, you have pepper, and then you have that fat that just rounds it out really, really well. Of course, you get the cheese, which, I mean, most people like cheese, right? And it just really worked. It really, really worked. I was very, very happy with that. And hopefully you guys enjoyed that little short that we put out. Again, if you want to see a long-form video on it, please let us know in the comments. We'll most definitely do it. It might not be right away because, we just put the short out, but we most definitely can do it. I actually got a message on Facebook from somebody that was asking, could you do a competition pork recipe? And I'm all for it. You guys let me know if you want to see that as well. If we get enough traction, we'll absolutely do a competition pork recipe. So the cool thing about what we've done in the past is we did a competition pork trim, and we literally showed you what we did in the trailer at a competition with that pork, turned around, competed with that pork, and we ended up a third place pork.
Right.
So we'll do the same exact thing. If you guys are interested, we'll do the same exact thing. We'll trim, we'll inject, we'll do everything at the competition, and then, of course, we will compete with that same exact pork, and we'll see how we do. And I think that that's a really, really good indicator of, and it's also very truthful to you guys because, we've done really well with pork before, and we've gotten our butts whooped with pork before. And you know what? There's no guarantee we're going to do either when we do this video, but we do like to keep it genuine, and we'd like to show you guys everything, the good and the bad. So it'll just be what it is. But let us know if you guys are interested in a video like that. We absolutely can make that happen as well.
Yeah, it's definitely something we want to do at a competition as opposed to in the backyard because it's just not the same.
And that's really why we haven't done a lot of these recipes. So it's really hard. It is hard because when we're at a competition, we want to film the whole competition.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, we would like to zone in on one meat and one meat only. But it's really hard to do because if we're at a competition, we obviously have a lot of things going on. We're prepping chicken most of the time, pork and ribs. Sometimes there's no pork, of course, brisket. So we're injecting these things. We're doing a lot of different things, and it does make it a little bit harder to focus on one thing. The way we would need to do it is basically say, hey, we're not filming anything else. We're only filming pork this competition. But that's hard because let's just say we GC the competition.
Right.
And we didn't film chicken. We didn't film ribs. We didn't film brisket. That would kind of stink a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
But it just, you kind of just have to take it and you have to just deal with it if that does happen. We didn't even film our first GC at all. So how can it really get much worse than that, to be honest? But either way, just let us know in the comments what kind of videos you guys are looking forward to seeing in our channel or on our channel moving forward. And speaking of competition pork, we had a competition this past weekend. How did it go? We talked about it last week. There was going to be a time that you were going to have to take over all by yourself. What ended up happening? How did we manage that?
Yeah, so we competed in Smoke on the Water over in Aransas Pass, Texas. It was a CBA 4 meat. That's the one we won. One of the ones we GC'd last year.
Mm-hmm.
So to come back, we were, hoping to get some really good results. And, I got there around, 7 o'clock?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like just barely past 7.
Yeah, I think maybe like 7:15 or something like that. Yep.
Right. And so it was a little chaotic at first because that's around the time where, all these things are going on. Like you had just put money muscles on.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're trying to get ready to inject chicken, but we need to check on the brisket. The brisket might be ready to wrap, but we also need to check the ribs. What about the pork? Because the pork went on before the money muscles. So it's just right at that vital time where all of these things are going on. And it's like, okay, well, we need to wrap the brisket. And chicken's just sitting there waiting to be injected.
Yeah.
And then, the ribs look really,
You're good.
the ribs look really, really good,
Mm-hmm.
but we have all this stuff on the counter. Okay, well, let's just leave them in there for a little bit longer. So while we finish this.
Yeah.
So then we go to finish that, and it's like, the ribs took on a little too much color.
For sure.
So it definitely was at a little bit of a chaotic time. And it was around the time when you were supposed to leave. So what happened with that?
Yeah, so basically, the plan was to leave and for you to do your thing on your own for a little bit. And I actually got a call from my mom and dad, and my dad flat out told me, he's like, dude, I'm telling you right now, if you come to this, you're not going to be able to leave. Like, you're not going to be able to leave. It's packed. It's jam-packed. You're going to be stuck in here, and I'm just being honest with you. Do not come.
Yeah.
And I was just like, Dad, I got to go. It feels like the right thing to do. He's like, son, you were here last night for the rosary. You paid your respects. You hugged and kissed everybody. You told everybody you loved them. And you told everybody you were sorry for their loss. And he was just like, I'm telling you, you just need to stay. Your mom does not want you to come. She knows that this is important to you, and she wants you to be at your competition. So I ended up talking to Mom, and I was like, Mom, what's going on? Are you sure you're okay with me staying? I mean, I want to be there for you and everybody. And she's like, Mijo, you're fine. You're fine. Stay at your competition. Do what you're doing and feel confident with your decision. Like, I want you to stay there. It's going to be very hard for you to leave if you come. So basically it was going to be like, if you come, you're not going back.
Right.
Like, well, I mean, obviously I would have been able to come back, but it would have been like, instead of an hour, it would have been,
possibly
hours
2 or 3,
because apparently it was blocked in. And then right after that, you got to go to the next portion in the funeral home or the funeral area. And it just would have been a big thing. So we sat there and contemplated it right in a very vital time of the competition. And we were like, what do we do? What do we do? And, for me, it's not, I mean, I don't want to say it was a hard decision. I mean, it was a hard decision, but we had kind of just thought about it, and you were like, you do whatever you want to do, whatever you feel is right. Like, no matter what, I'll be fine. Even if this doesn't go well, it's going to be fine. Like, everything is going to be okay. Whether we win it without you, whether we get dead last without you, you ensured me that we would be fine. And so I'm like, okay. And I really did not know what to do. I was pretty conflicted, but at the end of the day, my dad started texting me again, and he was like, son, I promise you, you're good. You're good. You're a great son. You're all that stuff. Like, don't worry about this. And I'm like, all right. So that helped me a lot. And then I decided, okay, I'm just going to stay here with Sabrina. And I ended up not leaving. So we did obviously think that I was going to leave and you were going to compete by yourself. So we had kind of tried to plan around that. But thankfully, honestly, it was almost like a blessing in disguise, in my opinion, because it was hard. We struggled pretty good this past weekend. If I'm being 100% honest with everybody, it wasn't because of the new pit. It wasn't because of the offset or anything like that. That smoker ran flawlessly. It literally, I was putting a stick in like every hour and 10 minutes. Like, it was just running so smoothly. It was insane. So the Outlaw did its job, and we'll get to the results in a little bit. I can promise you the Outlaw did its job. But again, it was just difficult because we're like, oh gosh, like how are we supposed to do this again? Go get the notebook. Right. And it's like we're in the middle of trying to do something, and so we have all this stuff down in our notebook, right? Our recipes, our techniques, but you think you're going to remember them. So the notebook's, it's over there. It's not in the way. It's nowhere to be found. I mean, it's in the trailer, but we're like, wait, what do we do here again? Like, did we strain the au jus first, or did we add a sauce to it first, or did we do this first, or did we do that? And it was just difficult. There was, I don't know. It was just different being out there again. It had been 5 months, and we definitely felt it. But I feel once we turned in chicken, it all started to come together. So there was a time, like straight up, flat out, I was pretty flustered because I was like, okay, what's going on here? Why can't we figure this out? We're not getting dialed in. And it just all seemed to fall together at the right time. And we kind of talked about this a little bit, and it's like in the beginning of the day, well, not necessarily in the beginning of the day, but like towards the middle of the cook, or maybe like a little before midway through the cook, I was definitely flustered. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is not going right. This is not going right. That's not going right. Like I feel out of sync. I feel like we're not on the same page. And I was flustered, right? I mean, like visibly flustered. I mean, it's not like I was like angry or screaming or anything, but I'm just like, oh my gosh, like why can't we figure this out? Like what is going on? And, it all started coming together, and it almost felt like when the stars align. It's just like, well, all those things needed to happen in order for this to happen type of thing, right? Like not saying that, it purposely went bad or anything like that, but it almost like so in a sense, I'm not going to lie, I definitely thought we were going to go in there and just be like, oh, we're good. And we technically were good, but like the little things which we feel like have made us a good contender at competitions, we were like, wait, what do we do again? And that was frustrating for me, and that's really where my frustration came from. I'm like, how do we not remember this? Like, we've done this so many times. But it's one of those things where I relate a lot in my life, in my competition, in my competitive nature, I guess, to golf, right? So like if I go 7 months without golfing and then I go play 18 and I shoot an 83, what did you expect? What did you expect? You haven't been practicing. You haven't been playing. It's going to be a struggle, right? But realistically, 83 is not horrible, right? So I felt like it was the same thing for us, right? Like I wanted to go out there and I wanted everything to be dialed. But what do I expect? We haven't done it for 5 months, right? So it's almost like a reminder. It's like that little reminder like, hey, you want the results. You want things to go smoothly, like you got to keep doing this, right? And we talked about it after the competition, which we'll get to in a little bit, but we definitely want to work towards getting a different trailer. That way we really don't have to. I know I said probably not that long ago, like, oh, we'll take the summer months off. I just don't think for what we're doing in our brand, that's the best idea right now. Hopefully we get to the point where we solidify ourselves as a great brand, a great competition team, and people use our products for us, and that's good enough, which it is good enough, but like it's also huge for us to be out there right now. It's still huge for us to be out there.
Yeah, and for me, I guess I wasn't having the same struggles as you.
Well, you're a lot more, I don't want to say level-headed is the word, but you're a lot less emotional than I am.
Yeah. And it's funny because we talked about, somebody asked about barbecue superstitions, right? Mm-hmm. And not that we're very superstitious at all, mm-hmm. but one of the things I mentioned was a lot of the times what can happen is when things aren't going well, that's when you do well. So I always try to keep in mind that, hey, things might not be going well right now. That does not define our outcome. For sure. So even looking at it without any superstition, you just have to be try and be as positive as you can, right? So remember that what's happening in that moment is not going to define your outcome. It's the same as cooking any one of your meats. Mm-hmm. The cook might not be going the way you want it for the entirety of the cook, but you can save it right there in the end, right? So, I guess emotionally it wasn't as frustrating for me. Mm-hmm. There were little things that, yes, we were forgetting. Not cooking, because, cooking is one of the things that definitely comes natural. But it was like, hey, did we add this last time? Because I have it in my notes, but I feel like we did something else, because we have a habit of, hey, let's just try this for right now and see how it does. And then we might forget to write that down. Yeah. So it was a lot of trying to remember, hey, did we change anything, or is this still what we were doing? There was little things like, we weren't using drums except for chicken. In chicken, we didn't need a water pan. But normally when we use drums for all of our meats, we have pans for water pans. They're half pans. It's also the size of pan we use to wrap our pork money mussels.
Yeah, we didn't have one.
We didn't, because in my head I was like, we don't need pans. We don't need water pans. I already got pans for all these other things.
Yeah.
Luckily, Bill was able to lend us one.
Yeah, shout out Bill.
Yeah, shout out Bill. But it's little things like that. Or, I mean, even, do we have Pam? Well, no, I don't think we used that last time. Or I don't think it was necessary this time around. You know, so it was little things that the whole time we were prepping too, I'm trying to think of, am I forgetting anything? Am I forgetting anything?
That's where your list, we've talked about it, and it helped us out. But that's where, like, we've talked about what are important things with competition barbecue. Have a list.
And update your list.
Update your list all the time. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely update your list, because we have list of, like, our recipes and not necessarily exactly the things that we need, because when we were competing so much, we remembered those things all the time, or they were always in the trailer, right? So this time around, it was like, okay, it's been so long. A lot of these things are not in our trailer. They're in our house because we've been using them in our house.
Yeah.
You know, so that was a really rough part. But I think once you get past that, or you find a solution for it, the cooking comes natural.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's the part where we definitely, you know, when we were probing our meats, we knew what we were expecting. Just by feeling it, it comes back to you and remember, okay, yeah, this is definitely the tenderness I want for the pork, for the brisket.
And I think for those things we did nail it. We did do exactly what we wanted to do, and I did truly enjoy being back out there. It's one of those things. It's kind of weird. Like, leading up to the competition, sometimes you're like, oh gosh, again.
Right.
And then when you're out there, it's just a blast. It really, truly is. It really is a blast. It's like, just get over that hump and just go and just get it done.
Even the kids, they were like, oh, it's going to be so hot out there. And then
they're
running
around everywhere. Yeah, they're running around everywhere. So it was definitely a good competition overall. There was those frustration times, but that's also, I mean, like I said, I love it because it truly is just the difference of you and I. I mean, there are huge differences in you and I. I mean, we're obviously different people. You're a female, I'm a male. There's just so many different things between us, about us, not between us, but about us. And, like, I think that, you know, like, emotions-wise, like I said, I'm more emotional. But, like, I'm also, like, overly happy, overly cheesy, overly everything. Like, you guys have heard me talk so many, 44, 43 episodes already. Like, I'm like that guy who, I don't want to say like I try to be motivational, but like I truly believe these things in my head. And that comes from my emotion. Like, I believe this is going to work. I believe that I have the best partner for this. I have the greatest kids in the world. I have the best mom and dad in the world. Like, all those things stem from my emotions, right? So like the passion I have for everything that we do, the passion I have for family, the passion I have for making this into a business that we can do full time. Sometimes, obviously, you know, my passion, my emotion can definitely go one way, right? Where it's like, oh man, you're a little more emotional about this than I would be, right? But like, you have done a great job of always reeling me back in. Like, hey, I know that doesn't look exactly the way you want to, but like, we're not done yet. Don't worry about it. And you literally told me, like, because there was a point when our ribs looked perfect. Yeah. And I wanted to take them off, but we couldn't because, again, we're not in that mindset, or we weren't fully in that mindset. So we left them on for an extra 15 minutes. And literally in those 15 minutes, the color, I'm going to be honest with you guys, the color slightly changed. But it did change. And I was just like, I knew I wanted to take those ribs off. And I was upset. Not like, again, I don't want you guys to think like I was there screaming like, we should have taken the ribs off. Like, no, it's just like, but I'm like, man, like, I knew we should have taken those ribs off. Right. I know we should have. And you're like, look, they still look good. I know, I agree with you. They do not look like they did, and we should have taken them off. I agree. But they still look fine. It's not like they're black. They still look nice and red. Let's just finish this up, and they're still going to taste good. Like, you're cooking these ribs. And that's another good thing you do is you instill confidence in me. Like, you're like, look, you are cooking these ribs. They are going to be good. Like, because we've talked about it before. Like, ribs has always been my favorite thing to cook. And I have a lot of confidence in ribs. So you do tell me those things. You're like, it's going to be fine. Trust me, I get it. Like, they don't look exactly the way I wanted them to either, but
yeah, in my head, I'm like, those are gonna place no matter what they're gonna place.
yeah, and it's you do a great job of like I said, we're like fire and ice or whatever you want to call it, right? But yeah, most definitely we got past those obstacles together, and for me, it felt really good once we got into a groove. It felt like really good because we did get into a groove eventually, right? Once we got everything wrapped up, once we got all the stuff moving, it felt really, really good to be out there, and things just started kind of clicking.
Yeah,
right?
and
they
also,
really did.
Once you started tasting the food, it's like, oh yeah, like that we are okay.
Yeah, we're okay.
We're
like
okay.
we knew at that point we were okay. So we've been talking a little bit about the competition already, and we haven't talked about any results. So we can go meat by meat. Number one, how did they place? And number two, what did you think of the actual protein?
So starting with chicken, of course, chicken unfortunately is our weakest link. The chickens, I will say, not that this makes the biggest difference, right? But the chickens were bigger than what we wanted. We had a hard time finding chickens this week or last week. They were bigger than what we wanted, right? So the issue with that is, will the box close? If I close this box, is it going to touch the top, right? So that was an issue. Not like it's the biggest deal overall in the scoring, but it does matter. It matters to us because we do like a nice presentation. So I will say the chicken did not look, in general, it just didn't look
the way we wanted. Yeah, and unfortunately, I think that was kind of a mental thing for me, like a mental hurdle, because honestly, we were having so much problems finding chicken that it just felt off from the get-go, right? It's like, chicken is already our weakest protein. We can't find the right birds that we're used to cooking. And then we were cooking on something different than we normally will. And I will say that I truly do believe that did make a difference with the chicken.
Yes.
And the only reason I think, so we took a gateway, which I've talked about this, but we took a gateway just in case we ran into trouble with the outlaw. That is the biggest mistake I've ever made because the outlaw ran way too perfectly.
Right.
So we do not cook chicken on a drum. We did not practice chicken on a drum. It 1,000,000% is different. We're used to cooking half birds now over direct coals, like pretty hot.
Right.
That being said, I will say that I do think the chicken actually tasted really good.
It did.
And I think the texture was really good. But what did we end up placing? You remember? I remember.
19th?
Yep, 19th.
Yeah, we placed 19th in chicken. And yes, I thought the chicken tasted good. You know what's good for us when the kids are all over it and they're eating it and they're complimenting it. For us, that's usually a big sign that it tastes good, right? But I thought it had plenty of flavor, and a lot of the times with chicken, it's the one of the issues is getting the flavor in the chicken. Yeah. I thought it had just as much flavor as it did in Jourdanton, and that's where we actually got a chicken call in Jourdanton, right? Yep. So we were we had our hopes not necessarily high,
but we thought it was good enough chicken to walk for sure.
Right. It might not have been top 5, but we were hoping that it would have gotten a call because it was good.
A good chicken, yeah. And I will say this also, like Chance tried it, Danielle tried it, Raul tried it. Raul wasn't competing, but he came by and hung out for a little bit. Shout out Raul, shout out Chance, shout out Danielle. And literally all three of them said, like, that's a damn good chicken. Yeah. Now, the thing with Raul and the thing with Chance is I've told them a lot of times, like, hey, you got to be honest with me.
Right.
You like this is not the time to make me feel better. You got to be real with me. So Chance was straight up like, dude, no bullcrap. That's a fire chicken. Like, that is really good. Raul said the same thing. He's like, bro, that's a good bird, bro. Like, straight up, that's a good bird. And I trust them. I trust that they're not lying to me. Danielle said the same thing. And, I mean, you thought it was good. I thought it was good. So we again, we didn't necessarily think it was a first-place bird, but we thought it was a good chicken for sure. That being said, we got 19th place. We didn't know that off the rip. We just realized, hey, we didn't get a chicken call. All we could think of in our head was hopefully it didn't kill us and hopefully the rest of the proteins go well.
Right.
So moving on to ribs, we ended up getting a 6th place rib, which is a fair call for sure. It's a fair call. I mean, I definitely thought the ribs were better than sixth. I mean, of course, right? We all do, right? But I thought it was a really, really good rib. I thought the texture was there. I thought the flavor was there. The moisture was there. It was just a really, really good rib. So here's the thing, right? When you've placed high-end ribs and you feel like I've made this rib before and it's banged really hard, you feel like, okay, it can bang really hard again. So that was kind of where we were at with it. Last year, we ended up getting a third-place rib, and I just felt like this was the same rib. I felt like it was a really good, delicious rib, nice glaze, perfect color. I posted it on Facebook. Go check it out. And so I thought we had a chance to walk top 3 in ribs. So sixth is not disappointing. It's not. It's a call. It's a good call. But we thought there was potential for, a higher placement there. But it is what it is. So ribs, at that point, when you hear a rib call and it's sixth, you're like, okay, my pork is probably going to walk. And the reason that we think that is because we use the same flavor profile on both.
Right.
Now, it's a different texture on both, but we do feel like we're going to walk in pork. And then on the flip side, also, once you hear that call, you're like, dang, I really hope my chicken didn't hurt me. Because you do feel like you're going to do okay for the rest of the proteins. And you're like, gosh, I just hope that chicken didn't hurt me. So that really goes through my head a lot. It's like, ugh, hopefully the chicken was 11th and by 0.0001 points.
Right.
But sixth place rib and then on to pork.
Yeah, so...
Well, I'll talk about pork so you can talk about brisket.
Well, it doesn't. Well, let's just get right into it. First of all, kind of as you mentioned, ribs I thought were good. I thought that they're as good as they always are. So ribs are one of those things in my head. I'm like, okay, no matter what, we're always going to place something in ribs, right?
Yeah.
I thought the ribs were good. With the pork, I thought the pork was amazing. I think it's definitely top 2 of the pork that we've made. I thought the texture was perfect. One of the things is now pulled, we don't typically the purpose of our pulled is to just keep the monies warm. But the pulled tasted so good. And now normally what you would want to do is have just all rows of monies. We did have a row of monies that was smaller than the other, which to me I thought, okay, that's perfect because this pulled is so good that a row of pulled down the middle will work. It just the pulled was excellent. I thought it was that good. I thought it was good enough, just as good as the money mussels. Now the money mussels, we even in Jordanton, one of the things we did was change the level of doneness that we do for monies, and we did the same doneness that we did there, and it was perfect. It was really, really, really good. So my expectations were high. I thought that was easily a first place, but if not, a second or third.
Yeah, no, I felt really good about the pork. I really, truly did. When I bit the first money, I was like, yeah, this is I mean, no pun intended, this is money. This is perfect. I loved the texture of the money. The pulled really, truly was so flavorful and so good. Moisture was there. Didn't taste stringy. Didn't taste dry. Nothing. So it had a really good mouthfeel. And I really was confident in the pork. But did you already say what we walked?
Nope.
So we ended up walking sixth place. And that one, so...
I was disappointed.
Yeah,
I'll say it.
Yeah, Sabrina was a little disappointed. For me, I definitely was a little bit disappointed as well. But, again, I was really thinking back to the chicken, like, okay, that's 2 sixth-place calls. Stacy at that point had already gotten 3 walks. Okay, hopefully chicken didn't kill us, and hopefully we can do really, really good in brisket. And I still think we have a chance here because I did want to back-to-back GC it, like, really, really badly. Obviously, who doesn't go to a competition and want to win it, right? So that's nothing new. But, yeah, pork was excellent. I felt really confident in the pork. The box, it's on our Facebook page, looked really, really good. And, man, on to brisket. I mean, we cooked that brisket, and we didn't really know what. Now, I will say this also. Timing-wise and everything, the outlaw and the drum were the same.
Right.
Straight up, they were the same. And I'll also say this. A lot of people talk about changing recipes when you go from a drum to an offset, because on the drum, you're obviously dripping coals. You're dripping fat on coals. And with the offset, you're not doing that. It's like a top-down smoke, so you're getting smoke on one side. You have to rotate it or whatever, or don't rotate it. Do it however you want. We did not change anything, not one thing. And I truly do not feel like we sacrificed any flavor on any protein that was cooked on that Outlaw. We cooked ribs, we cooked pork, and we cooked brisket on the Outlaw. And in my honest opinion, it tasted exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't think, like, there was nothing in my head where I was like, oh, man, that's missing something because of the drum. Nope. I truly felt like the Outlaw did everything that I wanted it to do, and it just worked out. And I felt like brisket was a pretty standard cook. So what we did was we started the brisket on top on that microwave shelf, and I was spinning it every 30 minutes, like rotating it. And we eventually got the color we wanted. We wrapped it up, and we pulled it down to the bottom, and we ended up finishing the brisket that way. But I started the burnt ends on the bottom, and I don't think we posted a picture of the – well, we did post a picture of the trimmed brisket, but we didn't post the bottom side of our point, right?
Mm-mm.
So we talked a little bit about it already today, leaving the fat cap on the bottom of the point when we talked about our burnt end tacos. I did the same exact thing for the competition point, and it worked out flawlessly, I think.
Yeah.
I really, truly – so I don't know if we've put this in any videos or not, but a lot of the times when we make burnt ends, I will actually cut the bottom layer off of the burnt ends like 90% of the time. And our goal with that is to get a really, really soft feeling burnt end. So the top still has the bark, the sides are exposed, and then the bottom's also exposed, but you can't see it.
Right.
So when you pick it up or you get it on the fork, it is just like super duper duper tender. There's no hard part on that burnt end at all whatsoever. And that's always been our goal. So I said, okay, why don't we just keep the fat cap on the bottom, and then we'll scrape the fat cap off in the end. And those burnt ends were stupid.
Yeah.
Stupid. Literally, I was there. I had them in the foil, and I pulled them out, and Raul was right there, and you were right there, and I grabbed them, and I flexed it. I flexed the point, and I literally told you, I was like, these are going to be fire. Like, I literally sat there, and I looked at you, and I was like, these are about to be fire.
Right.
I just knew it. I could feel it. I could feel that the burnt end was cooked really well, and I know the flavor of them, so I had some confidence there in those burnt ends. Now, the other thing is we let it rest, we put it in the Cambro, and then when it came time to process those burnt ends, I don't know if this is going to make it in the video or not. You're the editor. It's up to you. But I was literally processing that fat the same exact way that I would the fat on the bottom of a pork butt when you're trying to get bacon. And you saw it, right? You saw it. Like, I was literally scraping it with a knife.
Yeah.
And then there's like a little membrane in between the fat and the meat. And I was basically peeling it off. Do you remember that?
Yep.
You saw that, right? So I was literally like peeling it off, and it was so easy. It was insane. So just something for you guys to try if you want to. If you don't want to, I mean, that's completely fine as well. But I was literally like peeling the fat off, peeling that little membrane off. And what it allowed me to do was not over trim the point.
Right.
I had a fat point. Like, if you guys are looking in the camera, like, I'm not even exaggerating. These things were tall. Like, they were over an inch tall. Now, if you're trying to get fat off of that point completely, you might dig in a little bit too much on one side, and you might lose a little bit of that meat. So we just trimmed the top side, and we left the fat on the bottom. And, man, I tell you what, I will do that every time now, because it allowed us to keep the integrity of the burnt end. We had a really huge, big burnt end, and it worked out. So, I mean, we're talking a lot about burnt ends, but that's because we did try something different on them, and it ended up doing good for us. Now, we put 2 rows of burnt ends, so we put, what?
10.
10? Mm-hmm. And that's how big they were. Some of the times we'll put 12, but, like, we were able to put 10 fat ones in there.
Yeah.
And, again, brisket, the burnt ends, I knew were going to be there. They were going to be really, really good. And then the slice, what did you think of the slice?
So the slices, I thought they were perfect. Now, if I don't know, like you said, I don't know if this part will make it in the video, but if you see our slice, if that thing folds over, it is breaking into several pieces. It is not going to bend, and a lot of people are going to interpret that as it being dry and overcooked.
Yeah.
But you have to understand, first of all, we started with a great quality brisket.
Yeah, so we just to cut you off for a split second, we started with a Snake River Farms that I picked up from HEB, and honestly, that thing was probably a gold. I don't know. I don't know for a fact because, dumb me, I did get it out of the box. I didn't look at the box if the box was a black or a gold. So if you guys don't know, Snake River Farms does sell briskets. They have black label and gold label. Gold label is going to be extra marbling, more marbling than a black. When I saw that brisket, so I had already bought 2 snakes.
Yeah.
And we were waiting for them to come in, and I called Sabrina. I was like, hey, I just found another snake that looks stupid. And she was like, well, we got 2 coming, but, like, does it look good? And I was like, well, let me take a picture and send it to you right now. And I sent it to her. She's like, oh, yeah, that looks good. And I was like, yeah, permission to buy it, please. And you were like, get it. I don't care.
Permission granted.
Permission granted. So we ended up picking up that brisket, and I trimmed it up, and, man, it was just perfect.
It was.
So we did start off with a really, really good quality brisket. Now, it has a lot of fat in it, so you can push it further. You're trying to render out that fat. And then also, and again, I don't know if this part will make it into the video. There's a lot that we tried. So this video is going to be a little bit weird. I'm not going to lie to you guys because our intention was to go into the video and give a lot of information. And I think when we were prepping, like injecting and trimming and doing stuff like that, we did. But then during the cook, because things were getting a little hectic, we stopped doing stuff that we needed to do. That's why the video is not out yet. So, well, I don't know. It's Friday right now when you guys are listening to this, so it may be out. I don't know.
Possibly, yeah.
It might be. It might not. It'll come out when it comes out. But there was also a part whenever, what was I going to say? What were we talking about?
About injecting. I'm assuming this is what you're talking about.
Yeah. I literally put like 11 tubes in that brisket.
Mm-hmm.
And you even know, like, in the beginning, when we first started competing, I would literally probably put like 3. Now I will inject that thing with everything that I possibly can. Everything. And there was literally, I believe, 11 or 12 tubes that I injected into that brisket, 50 cc's, a lot of moisture, I use Elsie's Play Bowl. There's phosphates in that injection. That's also going to help you with moisture retention. If you guys have never tried out Elsie's Play Bowl, we'll tell you our results in a minute, and then you can make your decision. I love that brisket injection. Absolutely love it. So we started with a high-quality brisket, and then the slice, again, I know I cut you off. I'm sorry. But there's sometimes things that I don't know if you're going to say them, and I know I have them in my head, so
right.
That's why I kind of jump in.
No problem. So, yeah, the slice, we took that flat. I don't even remember. What was the temp overall when we pulled it?
I mean, honestly, I'm not trying to be cliche, but, like, I don't even know.
Exactly.
Because we were not going off of a number. We were just, okay, it feels right.
We had already reached about 213 at one point, and we felt it, and we're like, no, this is not done. It needs to keep going. So we don't know what the ending internal temperature was on that, but it didn't matter because when it comes to brisket, you're going by feel, right? And because it's such a high-quality brisket, we're not worried about that temp because we injected it so much. It's high quality. We're not worried about that. So at that point, we're just going for feel.
Yep.
So once we probed it to check for tenderness, we got it where we wanted it to be. And at first, I mean, you had asked me, and I'm like, part of me felt like it could keep going, but then I was like, no. I think that's you're right. That's good.
Yeah.
And that was the right call because it was the perfect doneness. We're slicing, and the slices taste really good. They look really good. They look moist. And as I said, when it falls over, it's going to break into pieces. That's just how it is. But that's what we're going for.
That's how ours is.
Not
necessarily.
That's how ours is.
Yeah.
Right. That's what we're going for. Right.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of confidence already in the point because we had tried it. And then
we were trying the end pieces that we cut off, and we were like, oh my God, there's no way. Like, this thing is stupid.
You could just tell it was marbled.
There was no sauce that we were trying. Like, we were trying the very, very. So I square up the burn ends to make them look pretty in the end. And we're talking like literally the tiniest piece off the end. No sauce, no finishing powder, no nothing. And we're biting it. We're like, dude, there's no way. Like, these are stupid.
Yeah. And so I was just as confident in the flat as well. Obviously,
For sure.
you're because of how good burnt ends are, you're hoping that that's what people go for. But you still want to. There's people out there who just prefer the flat.
Yeah.
So you want that to be just as good. And I was really, really confident in that. And so let's talk about what we walked away with.
Yeah. So the final details that I kind of want to say about brisket is, everybody does all of their proteins different. And I know other teams that they do not cook their brisket as far as us, and they do well too. They do well as well. They also do good. But this is the way, when Sabrina and I talk about competition barbecue and these proteins, we're talking about the way we do them and the way we prefer to do them. This is the way we prefer to do them. We do not claim to be the best. We are not the best brisket cooks in the world or anything like that. This is the way we like to do it. And we feel, for us, this is the right way, right? So I just want to throw that out there. Because a lot of the times with what we do, that can be misinterpreted, right? Because I'm about to tell you guys, I definitely do think that's the right way to cook the brisket in a competition, but a lot of people will disagree because it doesn't fold over your finger and it breaks. And it's mushy, it's stringy, it's not good, it's whatever. We ended up walking away with a first place brisket, and it was it was a great feeling for sure, because we got a first place brisket last year as well. And that's 2 years in a row we walked away with a first place brisket at the Aransas Pass Smoke on the Water competition, which is amazing. It's a blessing. It's really, really awesome. And the thing about it is, you do have that confidence because you know what you're capable of and you know all these things. But that brisket just turned out really good. There's just no other way to look at it. It was, I feel like we hit all the marks. We did exactly what we wanted to do, and we were thankfully able to walk away with that first place brisket, which in my opinion was a really big call. Stacy ended up walking away with, did he get a third place brisket?
I don't remember. I just know Bill got, I was confident that we were going to get first, but I thought if not second at least. When Bill got that second place call, because Bill cooks a good brisket, I said, oh, we've got it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the thing with the brisket, it's so hard to explain, but you just kind of know when you did it, when you nailed it. Right. And the rest is up to the judges. At that point, you live with the results and you just kind of, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, it's weird. Sometimes you just have this feeling. Yeah. And you just kind of feel like, okay, I think we got a first place brisket. Yeah. And you can kind of, I don't know how to explain it, but it just randomly comes over you. Like when it's fifth, fourth, you're like, okay, I think we got a first place brisket today. Because just the way things are going and they're shaking out, a lot of the same teams are getting called, consistently. Mm-hmm. So like Stacy got a call in every single meet. He ended up GCing the event. Congratulations to him. First Class got a call in every single meet. He RGC'd the event. Congratulations to him as well. And then Kit Polk actually beat us out for third place. He's pack my bags. Yeah. I don't remember the next lyric, but anyway. And then we ended up fourth overall, which I, believe it or not, just with the way that the day went and the way that it finished, I have zero complaints. And yeah. I'm so grateful that we were able to walk away with that. It was a crazy feeling. It was funny. So there was a time when I did know, I don't know how I knew we got first place brisket. And I literally told Alonso, I said, hey, if we get a first place brisket, we're going to go to GameStop and I'm going to buy you whatever you want. And then you're actually going to be able to hear this because we mic'd me up. Remember? Yeah. So I'm actually mic'd up for awards this time. And I forget, at one point I forgot and I was like, oh snap, like I'm mic'd up. And I looked back at Sabrina. So she's actually going to hear all this. I don't know if this is going to go into the video. But there was a time when I whispered to my son, not whispered, I told him, I said, hey, we get a first place brisket, I'll take you to GameStop and I'll get you whatever you want. And then they played Bill's song and then our song started playing and I didn't sit up right away or stand up right away. I literally kind of put my mouth to his ears, and I was like, I told you, son. I told you, let's go. Like, I told you. And, he starts laughing and smiling, and I just picked him up when we walked and got the award. But sometimes you just feel it. And I'll tell you this much. You can get humbled really quickly because I felt it, and then no. But I felt it that day, and it was weird because we talked about this, right? Like, the frustration we went through, the situation with my mom and the funeral and not going and being so conflicted. And there's a lot of times that we even talked about this on the last episode where I've wanted to give up with this whole thing that we're doing. Obviously, I didn't want to give up at any point there, but it's almost a weird little reminder that we're on the right path. I'm not saying that us winning a first place brisket means that we're on the right path, but it's almost like it was known in the universe that we needed that I needed that, just because we were, I don't want to say I didn't have too much confidence going into the event because I was just nervous. Like, new pit, haven't done this in a while. All these guys are still cooking great. How are we going to do? And I was nervous. I was really nervous, but it's just a little reminder that, hey, you're on the right path. You're doing the right thing. Keep doing what you do. This is not going to happen every time. First place briskets do not happen every time. They will not, unless you're Robert Smith or Phil Breeden. They are killing it in brisket right now. Also, before I go any further, shout out to Rini Gonzalez Family Barbecue. He ended up getting a GC over this weekend. So really, really proud of him. He continues to use our products, and we're absolutely blessed that he's on the team. So shout out, Rini. You're doing amazing, man. 4th overall in the standings right now. He's killing it. Hopefully he can continue and finish strong to finish out the season. But yeah, I mean, back to the brisket. That it was a great feeling. Again, we're extremely humbled. We feel lucky. We feel blessed. Obviously, we put in the work to make the brisket and stuff like that, but you also got to get very lucky. So we got lucky, and we ended up walking away with 4th overall, and it was just a good day.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely a difference between cockiness and confidence, right? Because cockiness is me assuming that we're going to get a rib call every single time, right?
Yeah.
Which I'm 100% cocky about it because I have that confidence in you. But confidence in your food, though, is when we tasted that brisket and we knew from experience in competition barbecue.
Yes, this is in the same realm.
Right. From experience in all the briskets we've made.
Yeah.
And correlating the ones that have actually hit, you taste that and you know, okay, this is a winning brisket.
Yeah.
Because there's little differences sometimes in your brisket. And you'll say, okay, yeah, this has a good chance, but it was maybe lacking right here. And that's the difference between a first place and a second or third or fourth, right? So when you taste that brisket and you know that is a first place quality, that's confidence. That's the confidence, and that's not being cocky like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get first place everything just because, right? No, we weren't cocky about it. It was confidence in our cook tasting it.
I mean, even at that, right? Like you mentioned, you're cocky, but it's like, I look at it as you're confident in me, right? Yeah. Like, and that's, dude. Everybody in the world wants that from their spouse or the people they love, right? So, I mean, you know this. I'm cocky about you when it comes to like you're more confident in me than I am me.
Right.
And we've talked about this a lot. I mean, behind closed doors, I'm very confident. It's a mindset thing for me, right? So like I tell myself things, not in a negative way, but I tell myself things in order to keep me going, right? Like, you can do this. You are good enough for this. Your videos are good enough. Your persona is there. You are a good person. You're smart. You can get that job. You can get that promotion. You can do that work. Mm-hmm. And those are things I tell myself because sometimes you're all you got. I mean, I have you. I have mom and dad. I have the kids. But, like, there are situations when I'm sitting alone at work struggling with something, and I'm not going to call you and say, hey, can you instill some confidence in me?
Right.
It's me. I have to do it for me. So, I mean, I think it's important for everybody to be confident in themselves. You know, I think that then that's why we don't go out and talk crap. We get a GC or we get a first place brisket. Like, we're not going to talk crap about it, because this sport and a lot of things in life will humble you very, very quickly. I'm telling you straight up. Like, and I genuinely, like, we got lucky to get that first place brisket.
Yeah,
right?
the kids were even like, "Oh, Poppy." So last year at this event, we walked away with 3 cow skull trophies, right?
Yeah.
This time we walked away with 1, and Poppy goes, "Well, last time we got a whole bunch, but I guess at least we got one of them."
Oh, he was so after chicken, before we got the rib call, he was like, "Dad, are they ever gonna call us?" And I'm like, you'll literally probably hear it in the audio.
Yeah.
And I promise you, and this is when I realized, like, oh, she's listening. I told him, I was like, "Son, it's never guaranteed, son. Everyone here is trying their hardest. We're trying our hardest, and so are all these other 30-something teams here. So it's never guaranteed. But as long as you put in the work, I mean, you can earn it yourself for sure."
Yeah.
And like I said, we feel. I'm serious. Like, yes, we cook a good brisket, but there's so much luck involved. Like, we're extremely humbled. We feel blessed. Like, I'm glad we did what we did. But if we went out again this week, we might get our butts whooped. So it just is what it is.
But I read something the other day, and like that book with the like scripture for each day.
Yeah.
And
Jesus calling?
Yeah. Which I'm probably gonna butcher it, right? But something along the lines of don't downplay your accomplishments to impress others,
Yeah.
trying to seem humble, right? And that's definitely not what we're doing at all. But it reminded me that, when you have really good accomplishments, don't be afraid to say them out loud and thank God for the accomplishments that He helped you with, right? So I do think that, thank God for everything we were able to do that weekend. And it's just a barbecue competition, but it means a lot to us. It's really rewarding for our family to go out there, and my sister and her husband were out there for them to be able to experience that with us. It was a really good feeling.
No, I was just going to say the same thing, right? It's the first competition that Nathan and Sam have gone to with us. And, we're able to walk away with the last call of the day besides Reserve Grand Champion and Grand Champion. Bill Purvis has told me before, if you can't win the competition, at least win brisket. And it is a big call. It is. And for Nathan and Sam to be there during that, it definitely is really cool, because a lot of people see the passion from afar, but they don't get to feel it in person, and they don't get to taste it either. Because the reason that I get flustered, the reason that I want perfection, is because I care. You guys don't. You understand, but you don't understand. Like, we talked about it last week. Sabrina and I have poured everything we have into this. Mm-hmm. Literally, and we talked about it last week. I'm pretty sure I literally said this last week. Like, I promise you, there has been times when we're like, how are we? And now it's, thankfully, and we're grateful, it's not right now, and it hasn't been for a while. But there have definitely been times in the past, like years ago, where we're like, how are we going to pay for this? How are we going to do this? We have the money to do something, and then we start the process, and then we're like, oh my gosh, we don't got money anymore. How are we going to do this? Why would we try and launch a second and third seasoning right after Southern Hospitality? We didn't realize that we were going to have to pay this and this and this and do that, and now we have to figure out a way to purchase 5,000 labels, and then we have to place our first order, which is there's a minimum order quantity. We definitely... We feel, you're right. I'm not trying to downplay anything that we've done. I'm very proud of everything that we've done. I'm proud that we got a first place brisket, 100 million%. But I think that humility for me comes from knowing that it's not just me. Literally, physically, it's not just me that does this, right? Like, it's not, okay, I'm not waking up by myself and doing this alone. There's literally you. There's literally 3 kids that give me strength every single day. They give me purpose. If it was just me and you without the kids, I don't think we'd be doing this. Yeah. I'm just being honest. We would probably just have enough money to do whatever the hell we wanted all the time. We're doing this because we want a life with them. And they offer me passion just because I do love our kids so much. So this is not just me doing this. That's why I feel, and I even mentioned it earlier, I do believe we got lucky because a lot of luck is involved in it. You just have, your brisket has to land on the right table.
Right.
If it lands on somebody who literally hates brisket, you're screwed.
Yeah, I mean, we had one person who didn't like the way our brisket looked.
Yeah, somebody literally put on there, brisket looks dry. And then the very next person put, brisket so moist and tender, you don't even need to chew it.
Right,
Melted. And that's the difference. We talk about it being subjective all the time. So I'm not trying to downplay anything, and I'm not trying to seem overly humble or anything. That's genuinely the way I feel, because this is not just me. I didn't go out there and just do that by myself. Like I said, there's so many things involved. It's mom allowing me to do what we did.
Right.
It's dad reassuring me that I'm making the right decision. It's the kids giving me a reason and a purpose. It's you instilling confidence in me. And then, yeah, of course, I lit the pit. I cooked the brisket. Okay, that's cool. There's a lot of people that can cook briskets. And they could probably cook it better than us too. And that's fine. That's fine with me. That's not the reason that we're here. We're not necessarily here to win barbecue competitions. We're here to build a brand that can last generations, right? And that's my goal. That's
right.
Our goal. Like, I want for Gulf Coast Smoke to be something that even when we're gone, it continues to live through our kids, through their kids, through their kids' kids. Like, yeah, it's crazy. And there's probably people that are listening, they're like, man, you're not going to do that. Okay. We believe we will. And that's why we continue to do this every single day. So, yeah, I will say it right now. Like, I'm not trying to downplay anything that we've done, and I'm not trying and be too humble. I'm grateful. That's why I said it earlier. I'm grateful. I'm blessed. We definitely did it, right? We did it. I did not do it. That's just the way I truly feel. Like, yeah, it feels great hitting a first place brisket. It feels great. I ain't gonna sit here and lie to you, but I will also say that I'm really good at competition's over. It's over.
Right.
I mean, let's obviously see if we can capitalize on this, generate some sales, do whatever we do, market this a little bit, put some posts out. That's what we have to do. Right? Mm-hmm. With what we're trying to build, that's what we have to do. But I will say I also don't believe in being too cocky with this, because I know how many great cooks there are. I know how many great cooks there are, and I'll never take it for granted that we're able to walk away with a first place brisket in that field. So great point for you to bring up. Most definitely, everybody out there, don't ever be embarrassed. Don't ever feel bad. Don't ever feel like you're being an a-hole or too cocky if you celebrate your wins. There's nothing wrong with celebrating your wins, because you should feel happy.
Yeah, when you're giving that credit to the Lord.
Yeah, for sure. And everything that you guys do, it's like, if you accomplish something, man, be happy about it. Post about it. Take a picture about it. Share with people you love, you know? And, yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with anybody being overly confident or whatever about. I mean, there's ways to do it, right?
For sure.
But you know, we're here to tell you we're confident. We're always going to remain confident, because I think we need to be.
We work hard enough.
Yeah,
to
for sure.
Be confident.
And I do think so. But yeah, that being said, I mean, the competition was great. We're very, very happy that Chance and Danielle were there. Nathan and Sam were there. The kids were there with us. Dad was there with us after the funeral and everything. He came out and he helped us out. So shout out to Dad. Mm-hmm. Love you so much. Shout out to everybody that went. Love you guys too. And yeah, I mean, it was just a good weekend. Then we ended up doing some stuff with the family, hung out for the rest of the weekend, which was really, really nice. And yeah, just an overall really, really good weekend. We're looking to come back again really, really soon to another competition. Let us know what you guys want to see. Let us know what you guys want to hear on the next podcast. Do you guys want any guests? We've been really enjoying doing it just us, but if you guys want any guests, give us some ideas down in the comments below. And yeah, we appreciate it. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about before we wrap this up today?
Yes, so Trifecta is back in stock.
Oh, yes.
So definitely every single placing we got this weekend, thanks to Trifecta as well. So make sure to go check the website, order you some Trifecta. I know there's lots of people who have been wanting to get it, but we've just been out of stock. So sorry about that, but it is back in stock.
And I'll tell you this. We got our stock in, and we already placed an order for more.
Yes.
Because we are trying not to sell out. You guys, sometimes y'all go crazy, and we are so grateful for that. It's hard to keep it in stock sometimes, but every single protein had Trifecta on it, and 3 proteins had Trifecta in it. Okay, so I injected pork, ribs, and chicken with Trifecta. I seasoned chicken, pork, ribs, and brisket with Trifecta. It's all on camera. It's documented. There's 100% proof there. Trifecta, I've told you guys this. Obviously, it's our seasoning. We are very proud of it. It can go on anything. And it can help you walk. I promise. Just use it. Don't be afraid to throw it in your injection. Don't be afraid. We throw it in our chicken injection.
Our brine.
Yes, and our brine. And some people are afraid that there's going to be red streaks in the actual breast. There's none. There's zero. There is zero redness in there. Same thing with ribs. Same thing with pork. I think you guys would have great results if you started using Trifecta. Give it a shot. Let us know what you guys think in the comments down below. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
That's it.
No. Thank you guys for always watching. Thank you guys for always listening. The last episode was a great one. You guys showed some love there, so I do want to say I appreciate you guys for that.
For sure.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one as well. If there's anything, like I said, that you guys want to hear or see, let us know. Reach out to us on social media. We really appreciate you guys for watching on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and do that. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, you can actually add our show as one of your favorites, and then you'll be notified every week when we come out with a new episode every single Friday, sometime between 7 and 10 or 11. You know, you never know with us, but we try and stick to a schedule, but man, sometimes it's hard. We appreciate you guys watching. We appreciate you guys listening. Until next episode, we'll see you. Peace.